in a loss that summarized the entire Cubs season and Justin Steele's possible injury. What a show it's going to be.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Please support the show and be a part of the Locked On Cubs community by following on all audio platforms. And you can watch, subscribe, and leave a comment on YouTube. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Today's Thursday episode is presented by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The 2023 Cubs season was wrapped in a one-game presentation on Wednesday, a game that ultimately resulted in a 4-3 loss to the Rays, as somehow winning the series over the best team in baseball and being on the verge of a sweep still ended in crushing emotion, but it ended that way because of how it played out. So let's get to it, Sam. A lot of places you could start.
And this isn't the first time that happened. Remember against Miami, that crushing loss going for the sweep at home at Wrigley, that 15-inning affair or whatever it was. Look, this loss had the three equilateral parts of a triangle, the three sides that have resulted in the Chicago Cubs being 24-31 instead of, let's say, 31-24. And the irony of it was, Matt, is Jed Hoyer was in the box earlier in the game citing two-thirds of this. He can't cite the manager part of it because of obvious reasons. But he talked about the low-leverage hitting, the low-leverage pitching. And I actually thought it was a pretty meaningful interview, even though it was a front-running appearance that he came in, as I predicted on this program,
right,
after a couple of wins. But let's start it out, okay? So the first leg of this equilateral triangle, this first side, is the poor bullpen job that isn't David Ross's fault. So let me get to that first.
Okay.
I saw a lot of people, Matt, including somebody I respect, David Kaplan, rip David Ross in the seventh inning with 2 outs for pulling Hayden Wesneski after a 2-out walk to Margot and going to Mark Leiter Jr. to face Brandon Lau. The reason is Hayden Wesneski was cruising. I am a hybrid when it comes to analytics. I use them sometimes, and sometimes I use my eyes, and sometimes old school. When it comes to managing and when it comes to David Ross, I think I've been extremely fair about just play the numbers. Play the numbers. In that situation, Mark Leiter Jr. is going to get out Brandon Lau more likely, more often than Hayden Wesneski. It didn't work out. That's not David Ross's fault. That was Mark Leiter Jr.'s fault for hanging a 1-0 or 0-1, whatever it was, splitter right down the middle. And it was a home run. Hayden Wesneski has not deserved and not earned a right to face that hitter. He has not been good enough. He was today, and part of that was because that was a lineup that was designated and designed to face Justin Steele, and they couldn't make substitutions that early pinch hitting, so Wesneski got a lot of favorable right-on-right matchups. He did not deserve that for Brandon Lau. Maybe today he did, but overall, no problems here. Mark Leiter Jr. has to be better. Now, fast-forwarding to the 8th inning. Mark Leiter Jr. comes out again to face Walls. I didn't agree with this, and I tweeted it at the time. I thought it was just obvious it wasn't his day to go somewhere else. But again, the numbers support Taylor Walls, worse hitter from left instead of right. He's a switch hitter. And Mark Leiter Jr., better facing lefties, right? He walked him on 4 pitches. Here's where the manager comes into play. Jose Siri, Yandy Diaz, Randy Arozarena, Harold Ramirez, all due up. Adbert Alzolay warming up in the pen. He ends up coming in regardless of what happens in the Jose Siri at bat. why are you giving Leiter Jr. the opportunity to face a righty there when A, that's not his strength, B, he clearly doesn't have it, and C, you have a guy warming up that dominates righties. And then you ended up using Alzolay after when the game was 4-3. So what's one hitter make the difference? The only explanation is, and God forbid anybody ask this, by the way, after the game, hey, why did you let Leiter Jr. face Siri when Alzolay was warming up? And that's Alzolay's guy. That's not Leiter Jr.'s guy. He doesn't get out righties at a high clip. Nobody asked that, right? God forbid. And the only explanation is, Matt, is that Alzolay wasn't ready yet, right? And if that's the explanation, that's not a good one. That's on Ross. So that's the second leg. The third leg, I know I'm talking a lot, is the high leverage hitting. And first and third, one out, down a run in the eighth. Swanson strikes out. Happ takes a bad call for called third, but I'm starting to become on your side when it comes to this. I know it's a big situation. Protect the plate. Stop leaving it up to the umpire. 25 years ago, that's a strike every time. The only reason we pick at it now is because there's a box there to tell you it's not a strike. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's enough already with Happ. I get it. He needs to be more aggressive. And by the way, that was a ball. Where's the manager to come out and argue? That was two. One on Happ, one on Suzuki, called thirds that weren't close. At some point, you got to protect your players, especially the ones that take a lot of pitches. And then, lastly, the ninth inning.
Oh,
you get three gifts, Matt.
In a row. Consecutive, right?
In a row.
Not quite.
No, consecutive. A one-out walk to Tauchman. Pitches weren't particularly close. Then they pinch hit Rios, which I supported. Maybe he gets into one. He falls behind 0-2 and gets a hit by pitch that just skimmed his jersey. It was just – yeah, go ahead.
And this is with the reason for my confusion is because there was one out.
There was one out.
One out. Yeah.
Suzuki just missed one.
That's
on
right.
0-2
That's
pitch.
Right. Yep.
And then Tauchman walks. Rios gets skimmed by a pitch. And then Wisdom hits a tailor-made 5-4-3
right.
double play, and Paredes throws it away to second. Bases loaded. One out. Mastroboni works a full count, strikes out. Gomes up in the count 3-0, swings at ball 4 once or twice, flies out to left, Cubs lose. It's everything. It had every single reason why you are where you're not and why you're not 4 or 5 games up in the division.
Yeah, chances to tie, chances to win, and they can't do it. They don't put the ball in play enough in those situations. Nope. In fact, someone who's drawn our ire a lot of time, Trey Mancini, had a huge RBI single in the bottom of the seventh to answer back. But that was pretty much it for the entire game. Cubs had 5 total strikeouts with runners in scoring position on the day, including 4 in the final 2 innings. There's been a serious lack of clutch hitting and clutch pitching. Again, Fangraphs has a clutch stat that helps measure that performance in high leverage situations. The Cubs are last, 30 out of 30 in clutch hitting at negative 6.23. Twins are 29th at negative 3.40. So a huge gap between 30 and 29. Right. By the way, Orioles are first in baseball. And I guess I'm slightly disagreeing on the Wisniewski situation, but I'm not blaming David Ross at the same time. I think I'm just upset at where the game has gone. And because it affected my team today, I'm even more, negative and more upset about it.
What do you think about the 8th inning?
What
do you think about the other one, though, the Siri one?
Well,
one's the one.
I mean, that's feel. I'm going to talk about feel with the Wisniewski decision. Yeah. Leiter didn't have it. Yeah. You saw it in a previous. I mean, he gave up not 1 but 2 home runs,
right,
in a single appearance. And the problem with that is that he's been one of your best guys. So is Alzolay. And they both are right in it, back-to-back days. Couldn't get it done on Wednesday. But Wisniewski was just a huge bright spot in a game that saw Justin Steele removed after 3 innings. Wisniewski goes 3 2/3 on 59 pitches. I'm not blaming Ross, but I just don't like that up 2 runs with 7 outs to go, Wisniewski's pulled.
Yeah.
I blame baseball. Coincidentally, I log a lot of that blame on the person in the opposite dugout. Wednesday, Kevin Cash, who apparently no one learned from after his debacle for pulling Blake Snell in the 2020 World Series. But I don't like that feel and the human element have been reduced
Yeah, I agree.
as much as they have. And it's just upsetting that now to top it off, you can sweep the best team in the sport, a team that began the season 13-0, has been outstanding since, and the game is right there. And like so many times this year, they can't do it.
The game has become very matchup based, and I know you don't like that, but at the same time, the counter argument is Kevin Cash in that other dugout wins 95 games a year with no payroll. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it does work. And I just want to go back to the 8th inning thing. We could debate till the cows come home in the 7th. The 8th, even if Mark Leiter Jr. gets Taylor Walls on 3 pitches, you're talking about Fields. There's no, unless Alzolai's not available, then
should have been one and done.
It's done because you have all those righties coming up. And after today, I have the numbers in front of me going into today. Righties against Mark Leiter Jr. get on base at a 350 clip. Lefties a 190 clip. Like it's egregious. And it's like, again, another scenario where I would have been fine keeping Leiter in if he was pitching well. Series up, but then there's another lefty on deck. It was all right.
But there's not.
Right. So it is what it is. But again, those two things we could debate. The one thing we can't debate is the clutch hitting.
It's the worst in the game. It's not close.
And it's been this way for a while. And I ask you,
yeah,
why haven't we seen more shakeups in the lineup? And I'm not talking about randomly putting in Mastrobuoni. I'm talking about Ian Happ up. Nico Horner in an RBI spot. Who got the big hit in the 8th inning that Mastrobuoni, if he got a better read on that ball, probably should have scored on? Nico Horner did. Nico Horner needs to maximize his ability. He needs to be up with runners on. Right. To maximize Ian Happ's ability, he needs to be up with nobody on. Flip it. Suzuki, not a clutch hitter. And Jed Hoyer, I thought, really called him out in a very interesting way today, in a complimentary way, saying, this is good. It can be better. This version of him. And he cited high leverage. He cited
worse.
Suzuki and Happ are ridiculously bad in high leverage situations.
They're not clutch players at all.
Yeah, and Horner is. And I'd like to see him up in those situations. I'd like to see Tauchman up in the order with runners on. He's had more productive at bats with the game on the line in the last 3 days than Happ or Suzuki have had all season.
Well, I think I'd like to see Tauchman lead off.
Yeah,
I'm curious if you want to do more lineup convo, because I think that almost could be the whole Friday show, because I do think they have an opportunity to really do a full-time switch up, especially with Bellinger out, to open the trip. Yeah, I'm interested in how they open the trip Friday. So perhaps I can make a projected lineup and reveal it on Friday, but I think there's a number of things you could do.
I just don't like my hitters that I have confidence in with runners in scoring position batting leadoff. So I like Tauchman in the middle of the order. He's delivered with runners in scoring position. Right. Ian Happ is a grinder. He is the guy that gets on base at a high clip. When there was second and third, 2 outs, and Happ was at the plate, I could have walked away from the screen.
And could Suzuki be an option at leadoff?
Especially against lefties.
Yeah, so there's definitely options then.
But why? But the thing is Jed acknowledged today that the leverage thing is a big problem and it's not down to luck. But what are we doing to adjust? We just do the same thing.
Yeah, and I unfortunately I don't know. I wish that they would change it, especially after the way that this series went along. Even in the 2 fantastic wins, you didn't hit. And you missed opportunities. So the lineup should be changed.
And by the way, you didn't hit in those games because you had guys with reverse splits and you just ignored it and just ran out lineups that made no sense. Again, clutch hitting, clutch pitching, being aided in a negative way by poor decision making. There's your 3 branches.
And do you feel like Jed Hoyer listens to this show? I'm asking seriously.
No, but it really was gratifying listening to him say what I've been saying.
Okay.
And to all those people out there that commented early on that I was too negative, the first thing Jed Hoyer said when Boog, and shout out to Boog after joking around about Yandy Diaz flexing, shout out to Boog for asking Jed the serious question about, hey, why isn't this team better? He didn't say it like that. I'm paraphrasing.
Sure.
But Jed said the first thing he said when we were, and I can't quote this, but it's really close. When we were 14-10, we should have had a better record. We were playing better than our record, and then we started playing poorly. We didn't have enough cushion, and basically we didn't maximize when we were playing well. We didn't minimize when we weren't, and that's where you're at right now. But I knew it when they were 14-10, an opportunity was let slip away, and they haven't been the same since.
We actually had an episode one game prior. The title was literally
The Cubs
are better than 13-10.
Yep.
And they won the next day, and that was the season.
Everybody rips my negativity.
And you're getting a lot of it lately, by the way.
Yeah.
The other thing about this game, and I enjoyed our conversation the last 14 minutes.
I had a great day on Twitter today, man. I nailed every single thing. Right. Man, I called Tauchman bunting. Mancini pinch hitting. Said he would deliver. 2-0 count to Taylor Walls. I said Leiter Jr. should not be out there. 5 pitches later, Rays lead. So you and everybody else can miss me. If I were managing this team, we'd be 8-9 games better. Just have somebody else do the hard work of the signs and the hitting and stuff, and let me make the decisions. I can make them from my couch better than this.
I love running the offense. I could do that. I would do that part. I also think that we'll have to clip that. I also think that
not clipping anything.
If Justin Steele was still in the game, they would have won. And we're going to talk about Steele and his apparent injury coming up next. Today's episode is presented by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed with Game Time. The Cubs play the Padres at 8:40 p.m. Central Friday, and you can listen to every pitch with the Cubs hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. On the SXM app, search Cubs, or tune into channel 844 and catch the Cubs all season long on SiriusXM. Cubs pitcher Justin Steele exited Wednesday's game after 3 innings with what the team called left forearm tightness. Jed Hoyer emphasized in the booth proceeding with caution. Manager David Ross was the hardest one for me to read on it, and Steele himself was not concerned at all. Where I'm at right now, Sam, is this. He's either going to miss a little time or a long time, and I'm going to wait and see what the team says on Thursday or Friday. I think there's a chance we don't hear anything Thursday because they're not playing. I also don't know if leaving thousands of fans in the lurch is a good approach, but we'll see. Don't want to play doctor on the airwaves, but I would say that anything, given what I know about the forearm and the elbow and pitcher injuries, I do want to say this. And it is scary for even me to say out loud because I love this pitcher and I love this team. But anything other than Tommy John surgery will be a massive victory for Steele and the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, that's whenever you hear the word elbow associated with pitcher, the first thing you think about is that. And, I don't want to play doctor either. I don't even know how the forearm and the elbow or anything like that. All I know is he had some issues with his forearm. He was stretching it out. They called it forearm tightness, and now he's getting an MRI in his elbow. That needs to come back clean. My guess is if it's good news, you will hear about it tomorrow because they will be desperate to tell you something.
Okay.
I also don't trust this team at all when it comes to injuries, as we've seen.
Unfortunate.
Which what we've seen with Cody Bellinger. So I don't know. I trust Steele, but Steele's a tough guy. I don't like him saying he's not concerned about it. He's the type of guy he gets like a snake bite.
It.
Yeah, he's just gonna say, I'm fine. I'm scared. I'm with you on that. I mean, anytime your ace and your guy that you are going to be counting on from years to come is getting an MRI in his elbow. If you're not scared, then that's congrats to you. I love you. You're a calm guy or gal.
Yeah, and that's potentially transformative news if it is the worst case scenario.
Yeah, no, totally. But I don't think it will be. And I think, hopefully he misses a start or two, and it's all right. The thing about the Tommy John and the elbow is again, he was throwing so well and his velocity was so good. So you just try and hope that it was just some sort of tightness, something. But again, we don't know. We don't know. We wait.
Yeah. And Jeff Passan wrote an entire book on pitching, titled appropriately called The Arm. I read it a few years ago. And I chuckle when I talk about the book with people, because after about 300 pages, Passan basically said, hey, no one really knows anything regarding the arm, and anything could happen at any time in somebody's career.
Yeah.
So it's just you're playing with fire a little bit with these things, and
Tommy John, everybody has it these days when you're young.
Yeah,
it's almost like the chicken pox. You almost just want to get it done early so you're done with it already.
I thought he had it though already.
Did he?
Yeah, something that we should look into. I apologize.
I'll look into it right now. It's easy.
As you're doing that, plenty of short-term options if it is 1 or 2 starts, Sam.
He did have it already.
Okay. Javier Assad, Hayden Wisniewski, and then 2 others. I know Caleb Killian was severely underwhelming, but he's pitched well since his bad outing for the Cubs in Miami in April. And then the other one would be Ben Brown, who would be an exciting spot start. So 3 or 4 options there, and let's wait and see to hear the news Thursday or Friday.
Excuse me. The Athletic title scares me so much.
What is it?
Justin Steele's elbow issue adds more uncertainty to Cubs season.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of cloudiness over this season right now. Wednesday could be...
Well, we have to remember that announcement tomorrow is just as much, if not more, than a 2024 than it is this season.
100%. That's what makes it so bad.
Yeah.
Potentially. So
I think he's going to be all right.
All right. Coming up next, we are going to highlight 2 big prospects, one on the pitching side, one on the offensive side. Stay tuned. We're back here on Locked On Cubs to close out this Thursday episode. We're going to highlight Cade Horton and Pete Crow Armstrong. Horton made his 4th start for High A South Bend on Wednesday and was outstanding, at least in terms of the swing and miss. 4 innings, 3 hits, 1 unearned run, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts on 73 pitches. So could be a little more pitch efficient, but the strikeouts inflates the pitch count. 9 strikeouts in 4 innings is unreal. And Pete Crow Armstrong was 3 for 5 with a homer on Wednesday for AA Tennessee as well. So ever since Horton got to South Bend, he's been pretty electric.
Yeah, all I'm looking for with Horton is to try and limit walks and miss bats. We need guys that miss bats.
Exactly what he did.
And that's what he's doing. So there is good going on at the minor league level. I think my best advice, if you're a diehard Cub fan, and if you listen to this show, you probably are, my best advice to you would be to focus on that. Take a breather on Thursday. Take a breather. Get away from it. That's what I'm going to watch basketball. I'm going to dive into my work. Get away from it. Hopefully hear some good news re-Steele, because that's just really important. And then, you have all day Friday. And then if you want to turn on the affair Friday night, by all means. But stay away from it, man. It's just look, Matt, it's so, sometimes it's so hard doing the show because I just feel like I'm a puppet repeating the same thing. Like
it's starting to get repetitive.
And it's like, what else are we? That's what we're seeing,
right?
Like, well, and Jed Hoyer's seeing it. So what are we supposed to do? Come out here and say, hey, let's talk about Tauchman, on a day like today? Sure, we could maybe do that tomorrow. But that's tone deaf. Nobody wants to listen after a heartbreaking loss and say, yeah, well, Tauchman's hitting 350. The reason they lost the game is because they can't hit when it matters, they can't pitch when it matters, and they don't manage well when it matters.
Right.
And that's been the story since March 30th. And it hasn't gotten any better. And at some point, change is going to be coming. And it probably won't be happening this year, but it will be happening in the offseason if this continues. And there will be no doubts as to why. And then it'll be on Jed Hoyer from there to figure it out.
Shout out to the everydayers who are with us all 5 episodes throughout the week. And you can become an everydayer by checking us out each and every weekday. We'll be back Friday. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for Locked On Cubs on YouTube and smash the like button for the algorithm, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast on the audio side, and streaming on SiriusXM. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.